What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special Game Moose episode 125. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Turford, alongside the ghost with the most, Drew McMillan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Mostly. In body and spirit.
Yeah. Well, you're a ghost. I hope at least your spirit's here.
Oh, the spirit is here, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And the ghost of the Broccoli, Brock McLaughlin, may he forever haunt these halls.
Yeah, he's somewhere. He's battling the undead somewhere, is my understanding.
Up in the Great White North, like northern Ontario somewhere. Like by Peterborough is from what I saw.
I mean, some undisclosed location.
Yeah.
Fighting the dead who walk again.
Yeah, you can see his Twitter. He's talking all about it. He's there for a State of Decay 2 zombie survival course.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, he was doing yoga this morning, and it's weird.
Yoga.
Yeah, they took this picture of them like getting ready to do like early morning yoga and like archery and stuff.
All right. Okay.
Also, did you see that Brock? We have to talk about Brock because he's not here, of course. Do you see Brock has a mustache?
Yes, Brock has a mustache now. It's on his Twitter.
We have to sort of visualize it for people at home because, you know, they can't see. There's no video this week. No. And Brock's not here.
No, he's not. So, yeah, go look at pictures of Brock with a mustache. I mean, you'll probably regret it, but do it anyway.
It's all good. Yeah. On today's show, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. So as promised, we are going to be doing the FarCry 5 Spoilercast at the end of the show. We're going to clearly signify when we go talk about Far Cry 5. It'll be like the last thing we talk about this week.
Yeah.
So don't worry, we're going to have a full show.
You'll hear it after the terrible Far Cry menu music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Are we doing the normal menu music or are you doing the arcade music, which is awesome?
No, the terrible normal menu music. Oh. The really bad banjo.
The twang?
The banjo song that I fucking hate.
Also, fun fact, I didn't actually know this until this week after doing some research. Did you know that the arcade mode music was done by Wade from Alexis on Fire?
I didn't know that, but I do know that Wade is doing the music for the upcoming expansions.
Right. Well, him and the person who's doing the one for the expansion also did the arcade music as well.
Oh, that's fun.
But they didn't do the normal game music, which is weird. Wade's an awesome dude, so it's cool to see him back. But we're also going to talk about Hidden Gems today, Drew. Yeah. I'm really excited about that. I mean, as someone who loves classic games. And I mean, we're going to tell you all the games you should be playing. But first, Drew, there was a reveal for a game this week.
Yeah, there was. It was really weird.
It had a V in it. It's like V for victory, but also V for 5.
Yeah.
Battlefield 5 revealed this week by EA. They had their own reveal event, similar to Call of Duty, but they went into less details than Call of Duty, which I was a little bit disappointed about. So we'll get into the deets, but then there's something we got to talk about with this. So when they revealed Battlefield 5, they did reveal that it does take place in World War II again.
But there's a caveat here.
Yeah?
It's like weird steampunky World War II.
Yeah. So we don't actually know how far the steampunkiness goes, how far outside of reality it goes.
Yeah, one of the characters has a robot arm.
Yeah,
like they have like a steampunky, cybernetic prosthetic.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Like,
I don't know
and stuff.
That's the thing. Everyone was kind of confused when we saw that. Like, does that mean there's going to be more steampunky stuff, or is it just that? Or, I mean, who knows? They didn't really say anything there. They just said World War II specifically. They also said that the game is coming to PS4, PC, and Xbox One on October 16th for digital owners, so people who buy the deluxe edition. Whereas if you buy the standard version, it's October 19th. So they're doing the ultimate version thing that Microsoft does. Where if you buy the season pass, you get the game on the Friday instead of the Tuesday.
Yeah, you get a full weekend early, essentially.
Exactly.
4 days.
Yeah, exactly. Also, there will be a trial on EA Access, like there always is for EA Access games, and it'll be starting on the Monday of that week, apparently.
Yeah.
They also were returning to vignettes from Battlefield 1, which excites me because I thought that was a really interesting and refreshing way to do a shooter campaign, where you basically play as 5 different characters, and you basically play through their story during World War One. And they're all very different from each other, which is something I really liked. So I'm very happy that they're going back to this. But the campaign that they showed, the first war story that they showed, was called Nordlies. Nordlys. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but I spelled it out so you can pronounce it yourselves in your head. In the story, you play as a Norwegian girl who joins basically the resistance in Norway, basically against the Nazis. So you're battling alongside Allied soldiers against the Nazis in Norway. Mm. This pissed a lot of people off. A lot of people who don't know anything about World War II. Women fought during World War II. Drew, did you know this?
Well...
Shocking.
Define fought.
Well, okay. But in a scenario like this, she's not really like a traditional soldier.
No.
She's a resistance fighter.
Exactly. And like things like the French resistance had plenty of women in it, so did the Polish resistance.
Yeah. Like you didn't really see like as many American women soldiers.
Well, there were no formal American female soldiers.
Right.
Like they weren't a member of the fighting force. They weren't allowed to join the army or be part of combat.
Exactly.
That wasn't because there wasn't any fault of their own. It was because some dickhead asshole decided they couldn't.
That was just that was the time and place.
They weren't allowed to exercise that choice, which means that women for things like the Brits and for the Americans and for the Canadians and stuff, the role that women ended up playing was in the factories manufacturing munitions. That's where we get the Rosie the Riveter, like the we can do it thing, exactly. Right? Like the reality is that like women, even when they weren't permitted to join the army or be in combat roles, played a huge role during World War II on either side. But you're right, like especially where there wasn't a formal army or there was like a militia or like a resistance, those people were literally just fighting for their lives at that point. Yeah. It wasn't about
basically in any of those European territories.
It wasn't about signing up. It was somebody like you had there was
holy shit, people are taking over my town.
Yeah, there's a foreign invader, and I don't want my stuff to be stolen, my livestock to be hurt. I don't want my children to be hurt. I don't want my my culture to be destroyed. Like there was a lot at stake during World War II. So anybody who would pick up and fight if they were forced into it.
Also, it's funny. I kind of laughed about this because I had almost forgotten about this until I was on the way here to the studio to record today. Is that in Battlefield 1, you also played as a female in one of the war stories. So I'm like, why are people pissed off about this?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's, even at that, though, even if they said, well, this is, and they already seem to have established this a little bit, we don't know to what extent the setting is.
No.
But, like, if they just said, well, this is an alternate history thing where women are allowed to join the army. Mm-hmm. They can become officers and non-enlisted.
I mean, she's got a robot hand anyway, so.
Yeah, or enlisted, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there also weren't robot arms during that time, so fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like you said, we don't know the extent of where that goes. And again, in the context of when you read over what the scenario is, it all kind of makes sense, like why they would have taken this approach. And I'm really interested to see what other characters they're going to have. And because in Battlefield 1, there was a tank driver, there was a plane, like a fighter plane pilot, there was an Australian with a cool hat. Mm-hmm. There was a woman who was fighting against the Italians in Africa, and then there was another one. He was he was a naval officer. So right. I'm really interested to see what they do with the story this time around. But yeah, just the outcry from let me put it this way: if you think that women didn't fight at all during World War II, go read a book.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I mean...
Go read about World War II.
Yeah, look up things like we talked about, like the Czech resistance and so on.
Yeah.
Read about things like Operation Alphabet and stuff like that. I mean, those are all things where, the stakes are just people thrust into those situations and people just had to survive.
Yeah.
So, if you think that just because someone didn't, someone wasn't awarded the title of lieutenant doesn't mean that they didn't help organize and fight during a war. That's absurd.
No, exactly.
Or even take up arms. I mean,
yeah.
There was at least there were millions of people involved in World War II.
Yeah.
At least one woman at some point picked up a gun and fought.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
I mean, there are plenty of World War II movies that also have women fighting in it. It's just, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how accurate it is, but I know that the movie about like the legendary German sniper, I can't remember what it's called. There's a World War II movie with like Jude Law.
Enemy at the Gates.
Enemy at the Gates.
He like his romantic interest.
Yeah,
She was like a Russian sniper.
Yeah, the Russian army. I think at that time.
I haven't seen that movie in forever. I saw it in the theaters and I haven't seen it since.
Also had women soldiers in. I don't know, but regardless, like we said, like World War II took place over several years, involved millions of people, lots of people being thrust into that situation. They may not have been formal soldiers. They may have been, who knows? Like, you don't know. You weren't fucking there.
No.
Like, get over it.
No, exactly.
You can't say definitively it never happened. And again, this scenario has a level of fiction to it anyway. So,
I had to make it clear.
Yeah.
People out there are a little crazy.
Don't get your fucking nipples in a twist.
Now, I do want to mention as well, they did say that there will be no season pass for this game. They're going to do what they did for Battlefront, where all the content's free, but there are no microtransactions, they said.
Interesting.
So,
which is interesting, is one of the things they did talk
crates.
about is like there's tons of character customization for there's like something like they said like 3,000 different like equipable like physical
like
visual customizations. Cosmetic is the word I'm
and it sounds like that's all earnable through playing the game. And I'm guessing they'll probably take a similar approach to what Battlefront 2 does now, where there's you earn currency throughout the game, and that can buy you a bunch of cosmetics. And as you basically can level up your player ID has experience according to it, and you earn skill points as you go along that then allow you to unlock more stuff.
It's almost like my prediction of loot boxes will be scaled back or removed from future AAA games this year.
You mean the one that you didn't actually make?
Well, I wrote it down.
You did write it down.
I did say it too.
You said it, but it was not an official prediction.
I said it because there's no definitive way to prove it, but...
I mean, you're still 0 for 2 this year, Drew.
What are you talking... Oh, wait. What Adam Scott?
You are...
E3 hasn't happened yet.
No, you're 0 for 2 because you stated that there would be... that Call of Duty would happen in the future.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
No, not in the future. No, you said it would take place in modern
warfare. In a modern warfare setting. Yeah.
That is false. Also, FarCry 5 would have serious technical game-breaking bugs that would prevent the game from being played.
I said Far Cry 5 will have serious technical problems. That's what I wrote down.
But the way you said it was how I translated it.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, it did have bugs, but not serious technical problems.
It had some pretty heinous bugs.
It's not State of Decay 2, Drew.
Well, see, I haven't played State of Decay, so I can't.
I've played State of Decay.
I can't qualify it that way.
Although, to be fair, it's still weird that like every person I talk to has like different weird bug issues with that game. Like every single person across the board had different issues with that game.
Yeah.
It's so weird to hear. All right. So let's move on. We got a fun topic, Drew.
Yeah.
And this is one I've come up with. And I kind of want to do this like every 3 months or so, or basically whenever like there's a drought like this. Because we're not necessarily in a drought, but a lot of niche games are coming out right now, and there's a lot of games that not everyone's really interested in.
We're in that pre-E3 space, which is kind of a weird spot to be.
We're getting some cool releases in the next couple weeks, but for the most part, for the next couple months up until like early July, there's not going to be a lot to play. So we wanted to do hidden gems. This is something that's pretty like a lot of videos I like to watch on YouTube are hidden gems videos, learning about all kinds of games I didn't necessarily know about. We want to sort of pass along and say, hey, these are some games you can check out. So Drew and I each came up with 3 hidden gems.
Yes.
To talk about. So Drew, would you like me to go first, or would you like?
You go for it.
All right. So I came up with some. Of course, me being Ryan Turford, the weirdo, I came up with 3 really weird selections.
I got some bizarre ones too.
But my criteria this time around was I wanted to try and pick stuff that I know you can play on consoles you probably already have at home.
Right.
Like you don't have to go buy like an Atari 2600 to play these games or anything.
Okay,
like
that's
fair. So first off, Jeanne d'Arc. Have you ever heard of Jeanne d'Arc, Drew?
Jeanne d'Arc?
Jeanne d'Arc.
No.
So Jeanne d'Arc is actually a strategy role-playing game. Very, very, very similar to Final Fantasy Tactics. It's almost like a Final Fantasy Tactics ripoff, but it's actually really well done. It's done by Level 5.
Right.
It was a PSP game, but you can actually, through the magic of the PlayStation Network, purchase it for $10 on your PlayStation Vita. and it's incredible. It's basically like an anime retelling of the story of Joan of Arc.
Okay.
It's very anime-esque with like full motion anime cutscenes that actually still really hold up today. And the combat's really fun overall. I think it's a really fun tactical role-playing game, especially if you like stuff like Final Fantasy Tactics or Shining Force or Fire Emblem.
Right.
And if you got your PlayStation Vita rolling around, there's like 60 hours of content in this game for $10. Like I think it's a pretty good deal, whether you played on the PSP or your Vita.
Cool.
So, Drew, what do you got?
I'm going to go with one. I may have mentioned this on the podcast before. It's an SNES game. Easily one of my favorite SNES
Oh, God,
games.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Do you?
I don't know. Is it UN Squadrons?
No, it's not UN Squadron.
Oh.
As I didn't, UN Squadron did not make my list. UN Squadron, it's funny, though. We'll let Sean Capri have
You
that
and
one.
Sean Capri are the only people I know who always talk about this game.
Well,
Bobby the Nintendo Guru hates that you guys talk about it because he hates that game.
I find that really odd. It's a good game.
I still never played it.
It's a good shmup. It's a good shmup.
I need to track it down somewhere.
No, it's Evo, The Search for Eden, which is a side-scrolling kind of like, I mean, the closest thing is like it's like a beat 'em up RPG hybrid,
So almost like Dragon's Crown?
almost like Dragon's Crown or River City Ransom,
Okay.
Something like that. So the premise of the game is you are playing through. I'm gonna show Ryan the box art because it's got some dope ass fuck box art.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's Evo. There's Search for Eden.
Whoa, there's dinosaurs on that box art.
There are dinosaurs because the idea is that you play through Evo as it being evolution. You play through many periods of time. So you start off in sort of like pre-Cambrian Earth, and this all takes place on Earth. And you play as a fish, and there's some like weird like narrative where like Gaia, the spirit of the earth, is like taking you through the evolutionary process. Mm-hmm. And so the whole idea is you go around and you start off as a basic fish, and you have like this menu where you can spend Evo points to then add new abilities, like or like make yourself like you can give yourself a bigger body, which gives you more hit points and makes you swim a little bit faster, sometimes slower depending. You get fins, like new fins, which will speed up your movement. You can add armored plates and like a dorsal fin, and
Sounds a lot like Spore to me.
better jaws. It is a little bit like Spore, except not bad.
Whoa, those are bold words for Spore.
Well, Spore wasn't good. So there's all those sorts of things, but like it's all like hand drawn 2D side scrolling sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the combat itself is fun, and it's all about the combat. Whereas Spore was like each thing was a little bit different.
Yeah.
This one is each time it's always about the combat.
So it's more focused on combat than exploration like Spore was.
Yeah, so like you get to a level and it's like side scrolling, and you're essentially going from, in most cases, from left to right.
Okay.
There are different types of there are different types of like I don't know, creatures that you'll encounter, and there'll be like passive ones that you can just walk up to, bite, and then eat, and they'll give you some life back and some Evo points. Mm-hmm. And then there's tougher ones that will chase you and try to like eat you, and eventually you'll get to the end and you fight a boss, and usually it's something that relates to like the like evolution going weird or wrong.
Okay. So like they're almost like they're weird mutations.
Yeah, and like they're throwing off the balance of something. Like they become obsessed with something. So I can't even remember what the first boss is like. You fight like a giant fish monster thing. So I think it's like a big shark or something like that.
Okay.
And then at the end of that, you go into the next epoch, the next era, and you evolve into a reptile. So that's the era of the reptiles. This is reptiles. This isn't dinosaurs yet. Dinosaurs are not reptiles. Dinosaurs are dinosaurs. Right.
Well, dinosaurs are more like birds than reptiles, Drew.
Yes, but dinosaurs are dinosaurs. They're their own thing.
Right.
They're not reptiles. So you play as a reptile. You're like four-legged reptile. Now you're on the ground instead of swimming around, and same sort of thing. And you start off you become like a basic little reptile. And the same sort of idea is you're trying to get Evo points to make yourself bigger and better and tougher. And you're fighting. In this case, it's the insects, and the insects are like, oh no, it's our day. The insects, we're not going to give up. We rule the land. And you fight like giant bees, and they're really tough.
As giant bees do.
Yeah. Well, or wasps. I can't remember.
I mean,
And then from there, the next epoch is then dinosaurs, and there's a whole bunch of cool stuff, and like there's little secrets here and there, and like in the dinosaur world, one of the things you can do is like you find like this thing where it says like climb to the top of mount whatever and jump off the top for something, and if you do that, then you'll get turned into a flying dinosaur. You'll turn into like a petrodactyl or whatever,
nice.
which is really neat. And like you get choices. You can be like a 2-legged dinosaur or a 4-legged dinosaur, and then you can basically make yourself into a T-Rex or into a brontosaurus or a stegosaurus or whatever. Like,
But how does a brontosaurus fight? Does it like kick people?
whips its tail.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you, I think you always bite.
Right.
And eventually it gets to the point where like if you do the right combination of things in the mammal era, eventually you can evolve into a human.
Okay.
And the humans are like do a lot of damage, and like there's like this evil monster that's trying to like defeat evolution or something in the end. Really weird game.
It sounds like it. There's a
weird-
lot going on in this game.
Weird Japanese game. Really like at one point in the mammal world, like there's like this like floating castle that you can find because it's got like an overworld kind of thing, and you can like if you do the right combination of things, you can get to this floating castle, and it's where like the survivors of the dinosaur era have become these super evolved birds
Okay.
and have this like floating castle and have like
they're birds.
they're like Atlantean like technology, and you fight them, and it gets so weird.
That's kind of cool. Although, to be fair, I should point out that while you were describing this game, I've just been picturing the prehistoric era section of Virtual Bart for the SNES in my head.
It's exactly like that.
It's exactly like that, of course.
One to
Bart
one,
turns
pretty
into
much.
a velociraptor with a tail, and it's weird.
But Evo is one of those games where, like, I don't know, I loved it so much back in the day. And when you find a person who's played it, they like same thing. They just high five you.
That sounds like a really cool game.
I think it was just one of those games that just wasn't talked about enough. But it's awesome.
I could probably find it at a garage sale for $10.
If you do, you should buy it and you should play it because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that you give me that and UN Squadrons.
Yeah.
Or US Squadron.
UN Squadron.
UN Squadron.
Yeah.
There you go. I got games.
There you
Ladies
go.
and gentlemen.
Yeah. You'll have even more after this.
So next up.
Guaranteed you haven't heard of the other two games on my list.
Now, I've got one that you've heard of. I've talked about this game before, but then I've got a really weird and off-the-wall one that you probably haven't heard of.
All right.
But we're going to talk about Vanquish right now.
Vanquished.
Vanquish is a Platinum Games game. But
Is this Rocket Knee game?
it is Rocket Knee game.
Oh, yes. This game is dope.
Yeah, but no one else like that I talk to knows this game exists.
Yeah.
So every time we have a segment like this, I always have to talk about it. So Vanquish, of course, falls into the camp of, because there's just two camps when it comes to Platinum games: good Platinum games, bad Platinum games. This falls in the camp of good Platinum games, where essentially you're like you're a dude in the future, like very, very far in the future, and basically you have an exosuit that then, as Drew elegantly pointed out, has like rocket propelled boots essentially. So you can it allows you to boost around levels at insane speeds. So basically, it's a third-person cover shooter, kind of like a very fast arcadey version of Gears of War almost, with a very weird and goofy story that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's a Platinum Games game. None of them make any sense.
Yeah.
Even Nier Automata, which didn't make a lot of sense.
No, Nier didn't make any sense at all.
Also, fun fact: most of the team that worked on Vanquish also worked on Nier Automata, which that actually causes like the ranged combat to be very similar to this game. So if you like games like Nier Automata, I actually think you'll really like this game. But yeah, it's very arcadey, over the top. You can play through it in a couple hours. You can play it on Xbox One because it's on backwards compatibility, but it's a 360 PS3 PC game as well, so you can play it on Steam pretty easily. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. Again, there's not a lot really to tell. Again, you're not really going in for the story, but the combat encounters are awesome. It has some really cool over-the-top boss battles, as you do in a Platinum Games game, and it is definitely worth checking out. So, Drew, what do you got for me next?
I'm sad about Vanquished because it didn't get the attention it deserved.
No, a big turnoff for reviewers at the time, which is why most reviewers didn't talk about it, was the length of the game. Because it was only a couple hours, but it was a full-price game. Whereas now, on like Xbox Live, it's $10
Right.
to pick it up now,
you go.
which is the perfect price point for that
So
game.
go give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next game. I will be surprised if anyone knows about this game at all. The game is called Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. It is an adventure game. It is the sequel to Innocent Until Caught.
Oh, so it's like the other end of the spectrum.
It is. Yeah, because it opens with the character from Innocent Until Caught getting, or also, as it's also known, Innocent, getting captured.
Okay.
And so it's like this sci-fi adventure game. It's set in the future in space, and the first game you play as like sort of like this obnoxious, womanizing criminal guy who's on the run, and the game ends with him being caught, and of course the game starts with in this one with him being caught, and you had the choice to play between one of two characters. You can play either as the criminal guy whose name I can't remember, or the cop who catches him, who's like this like tough as nails lady, and who of course hates this guy.
Right.
And the game sort of opens with her catching him, and she's taking him back to be jailed or whatever, and the first thing you do in the adventure game is you disable the spaceship. Basically, he manages to escape, shuts down the hyperdrive, and then she gets then you receive a distress signal, and from there they're forced to work together to sort of like unravel this mystery in the game that like there's like this like secret interdimensional invasion.
Okay.
And it's one of those, I don't know, like
it sounds like a Drew McMullen game.
It sounds like it was just like the flavor of the adventure games. It did something like it was just like most adventure games that I played up until that point were either like really, really goofy or really, really sort of like like fairy tale silly.
Especially if you look back at some of the
childish.
LucasArts games, for example, they were all very goofy.
Even like Space Quest, while it had like this irreverent sense of humor, this one has this really sort of like sarcastic, kind of like mean kind of sense of humor.
Okay.
It's funny, but it's also dark, and it's a
this
cool
totally
game.
sounds like a Drew McMullen game all over the place.
Yeah.
PC, right?
PC, 1995.
Do you know if it still exists somewhere?
God, it's got to. Guaranteed, you'll probably find it somewhere.
Just on GOG somewhere. I guess.
GOG.
I mean, they have Siberia 2 on there.
Someone's DOS boxed this game somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Where you're talking about your next game, I'll see if I can quickly find it and let you know if it's available.
All right, last game on the list, and again, they're like only the most astute Genesis fan will probably know about this game. We're gonna talk about Biohazard Battle. Drew, have you ever heard of Biohazard Battle before?
No, is this
what kind of game do you think Biohazard Battle is?
Well, I'm assuming this is going to relate to the Biohazard series.
No, it has nothing to do with that. So, Biohazard Battle is a Sega Genesis shmup, very similar to R-Type, or it's a side-scrolling shmup where you basically play as one of four different, like, sort of insect style fighter ships. And basically, like R-Type, you get different sort of weapon orbs throughout the level. And depending on what ship you select, because you select one of four of them from the beginning, you have different abilities throughout the level. You also have different stats. Like some of the ships are slower than each other or faster, and some of them can take more hits. Likewise.
That sounds a little bit like you in Squadron.
It does sound a little bit like that. And you basically, you're tasked with sort of reclaiming Earth from these like alien parasites that sort of take it over. Really cool game. It's got... just like R-Type or any of those other games, has amazing boss encounters. It's really, really, really weird because if you want to talk about really weird Japanese games, Biohazard Battle is a really weird Japanese game. At one point, you fight like these weird like giant slugs that like sort of like stretch out and in, and they sort of float around the screen. And it's really weird, but it has amazing music. For a Genesis game, it actually is one of my favorite Genesis soundtracks because the Genesis, not really known for great music. But Biohazard Battle got great music. And the best part about it is most people haven't heard of this game because up until now it hasn't appeared in any of the Sega collections, but it is coming in the Sega Genesis Classics collection coming out next week.
Okay.
So people will actually finally get the chance to play this game. It's also on Steam, so you can play it there as well.
Interesting.
So if you like games like Life Force or R-Type, I think you're going to really like this game.
Cool. I'm going to go back to another SNES classic, a game I have talked about on the cast before.
The Lawnmower Man?
No.
I'm sorry, we're talking about good games.
You might remember, games that people want to play. Not
also American Gladiators or Wayne's World.
Oh, ouch.
Both of those are bad.
So this is an SNES game. It was a Japanese only release.
Okay.
But still playable even if you don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, as it might be. It is Front Mission Gun Hazard.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Which
I like
is-
the front mission series.
Yeah. So, but this isn't your dad's front mission game.
Okay.
This is
one of the older ones.
is a very old
so
one.
it's your dad's.
This is a what do they call this? Is a side story. This is not a
okay.
It's not a tactical RPG like the front mission games.
They should have
typically
just
are.
called it Front Mission Gaiden to separate itself.
I mean, it is. Well, that's what I think it is. It might even have Gaiden somewhere in the name.
Excellent.
Side story. But yeah, Gun Hazard is. It's Gun Hazard in big letters, front mission in small letters. So you play as it's a side-scrolling game, and you. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. There's another SNES game that reminds me a lot of it. But yeah, basically, so you're in your mech, and it's a side-scrolling game, and
Right.
you have like these mission-based sort of side-scrolling levels.
Okay.
These free-roaming side-scrolling levels where like it might be as simple as just get from left to right, or it might be like rescue a bunch of dudes or destroy something or whatever.
So it's
And-
not a tactical RPG like the other Front Mission games.
Not at all. It's
Okay.
it's very side-scrolling, and like you upgrade your mech, and the whole thing is like. And again, there's a like an overworld sort of map, and to begin with, the way you get your mech around in is a pickup truck. It's like a big.
What kind of pickup truck carries around a mech?
It's supposed to be a big truck that's designed
Okay.
to like carry them, like, but it's basically a big pickup truck. And at the end, you like jump into the back of the truck, and then the truck drives
that's
away.
awesome.
And then you move the truck around on the map, and then eventually you get like a drop ship, right? Like a ship that will like pick up your mech and fly around, and then you get like a better drop ship later on. I don't know how any of these things happen because I just aid my way through the endless lines of Japanese text, but
Yeah.
there's something about like you protecting the president, and like
Sure.
there's like
It's probably a story that doesn't make any sense because it's
Yeah.
a weird Japanese side story game.
yeah.
It's
there's
got
like,
Gaiden in the title. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense.
There's like a coup attempt, and yeah, it's a really neat game though. It's just another.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, SNES. If you can find it, play it for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
This is not a mistake, Drew. I'm so glad you gave me so many great classic game
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah. If you like adventure games, Guilty's the game for you. But the other two games are solid side-scrolling games. I love side-scrolling games. I mean,
Yeah.
really, that's my bread and butter.
Exactly. Cool. So those are hidden gems. Let us know in the comments below. Not the comments below. What am I saying? On Twitter.
Twitter.
Hit us up on Twitter at
Or the comments below.
game_moose_cast. Let us know what your hidden gems are because we do want to talk more about these later on. This is a
Yeah.
topic we want to do more often.
Brock, this is not an invitation for you to tell us where you hide your gems.
Well, maybe Brock's hidden gems will just all be Laser Shoot Larry games.
Sure.
Or
okay.
BMX Triple X.
Yeah. Or there's some other dirty games, I'm sure.
The guy game.
Yeah.
No, let's not talk about that one.
That game's
No,
that game got pulled, right?
Yes.
Because of there's questionable content in there.
Having a copy of that game is considered having child porn.
Yes. Yeah.
So don't go buy that game.
No.
All right. So Drew,
Yeah.
what else have we been playing this week?
I've been having a busy week. I haven't played anything.
You got
terribly
nothing
new.
for me again. That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I know.
I'm really disappointed in you, but understandable.
I'm
Understandable.
waiting for my copy of. We talked to our friends at WB. They're sending us a copy of the Hitman collection.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
That's
forward to
exciting.
playing all the Hitman stuff together. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we both missed out on it last year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sorry, it came out 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
It was episodic though, and there was a bunch of stuff that
Yeah.
made it tricky to play, and then there was some, like then the Hitman franchise almost disappeared, which is a shame because everybody
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
loved that version of Hitman.
Well, because it sounded like Square was going to keep the IP, but then IO was going to be gone.
Yeah,
But then they gave the IP to IO, and now IO is signed on with WB
Right.
to put out Hitman the Collection, which I think is coming out soon, right?
yeah, it's coming out real soon. Let me see. I'll pull it
Yeah,
up. I'll
you
pull
pull it
up
up.
the press release while you talk about some other stuff.
All right, so I played 2 games this week, Drew.
Yeah.
Well, I played more than that, but I played 2 games I'm going to talk about. So, first game I played this week, probably the most Ryan Turford answer I will ever give you for this segment. I played Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, a.k.a. the Castlevania 4 on NES that I always wanted.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, this game is
Wait,
fucking...
Castlevania 4 or Castlevania 3? Super Castlevania or
Well, Castlevania 4 was Super Castlevania, but it was sort of like almost like a soft reboot of the series.
yeah.
Whereas, like, I always really, after playing Castlevania 3, I always wanted, like, a sequel to that on the NES.
Yeah, me too.
And
Because
this...
3 is awesome because he plays multiple characters in 3.
Exactly.
It introduced Alucard, Sophia, and the pirate dude.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
I always forget his name. But
Everyone always forgets the pirate guy.
yeah. Whereas this time around, so basically, Curse of the Moon is essentially Castlevania 3 2, or just Castlevania 4 for the NES, essentially, where you play as multiple characters this time around, and they all have unique abilities. This game is done by Indie Creates, the same people who did Mighty Number 9, but they also made good games like Blaster Master Zero and Azure Striker Gunvolt. In fact, it's weird that Mighty Number 9 came out from them, because it's their only like terrible game I can really even think of off the top of my head, besides Galgun, and everyone knows why they're bad.
Yeah, well, Galgun is problematic for a number of
reasons. In fact, I'm pretty sure they just published Galgun. I don't think they make that. So.
Okay.
But they hit it out of the park with this game.
Cool.
Iga, who is basically was the director on Symphony of the Night, and then every Castlevania game other than the Lords of Shadow games after Symphony of the Night, also directed this game alongside another Japanese director on this. And yeah, it's everything I ever wanted from a sequel to Castlevania 3 without being Castlevania. You don't fight Dracula at the end of this game, but you can totally tell that Iga had his fingerprints all over this game, because there's all kinds of amazing secrets. Just the way the levels are crafted, they're crafted in such a way where, in theory, you could flip it upside down. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I see what you're saying. Inverted castle style.
But there's also, like, each character has their own unique abilities that then allow you to access other areas of the level that you couldn't access before. But then there's also, you can play the game entirely alone with Zangetsu, who's the main character, and then you get a completely different story, and the game plays very differently when you do that. Or you can recruit the characters as you go along. And unlike Castlevania 3, where you only get one character that you carry along your journey with you, and then you can swap out as you go. And this time, you can basically switch on the fly to any of the 4 characters.
Right.
Which really changes up the gameplay in unique ways, especially because each character has their own set of sub-weapons, like Castlevania games before them. Each character has 4 sub-weapons, and you can actually, some of them work synergistically with other characters. So, for example, Zangetsu has an ability where he can increase, double his attack speed. But what you can do is you can activate that ability, and it lasts for 20 seconds, but then switch to another character, and then sort of mix and match that attack speed bonus with I can't remember her name, but she has the whip, and basically you can increase attack speed. And each character sort of specializes in either longer range attacks or an arcing attack, or more magic-based abilities and stuff. Like Albert, who's the alchemist, has some really interesting area of effects abilities, including almost like the Ninja Gaiden circle of fire,
right,
where you can put on, but then you can sort of activate that and then switch to another character. It's really, really, really cool, especially for a $10 game. You can't go wrong with this game. It is fucking awesome.
So who are the characters in this game? Or what are the archetypes? So
the archetypes are similar to Castlevania 3. So there's Zangetsu, who's like the Belmont, but he's got a sword instead of a whip.
Okay.
And then the girl whose name escapes me, she has a whip.
Yeah.
Very much, but she can also jump higher than all the other characters.
Okay.
And she can do a slide.
Cool.
Like Mega Man. And then there's Albert, who's the alchemist. He's kind of like the mage of the group. He's the Sophia of the group.
Right.
And then there is an Alucard character as well, who basically attacks with an arcing bat pattern.
Okay.
And can also turn into a bat and fly around.
Excellent.
And I don't remember his name either.
Cool.
But yeah.
I have this crazy dream that I always wanted to make what is essentially a sequel to Symphony of the Night, which is like an open world Metroidvania, but with multiple characters and a bigger world.
Okay.
I've always wanted to see a game like that, where it's essentially, depending on what character you pick, you spawn at a different point in the map, and you're all trying to get to the castle to kill Dracula, sort of thing.
And you're recruiting the other characters, or are you competing against the other characters?
Well, you would. It's just you pick if you play as the Alucard. If you play as Alucard, you start in the crypts and work your way up, and you have a different path. You eventually will go to different areas. Okay. But you'll get to them in different ways.
I was just curious if they all meet up at the end and then take on the boss.
That would be neat. That I always had this vision of I always wanted to see them. In my mind, that was always seemed like the next step for Castlevania. Because in Symphony of the Night, you can play as Alucard, but there were some plans for you to be able to play as Richter.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if you beat the game, you can play as Richter. And then in the Saturn version of the game, you can play as Sophia. as well, right?
Okay.
So I just always thought it would be cool if they took that concept and just did like 5 characters or something and made it like an even like the castle
even
and
bigger,
the surrounding world just even bigger. But they never really got to do that. They ended up doing these GBA games, which ended up being a little bit smaller,
Right.
in scope.
Well, that's the problem. Like after Symphony of the Night, like they didn't do another console
Yeah.
release at all, other than Lords of Shadow and Castlevania 64. Like Konami was more interested in doing that instead of
Yeah.
evolving that formula on a much broader scale. Because the portable Castlevania games are awesome.
Yeah.
But they didn't. I felt like they always didn't do enough to evolve the format.
Yeah. I think the closest thing we get is maybe like Portrait of Ruin.
Yeah. Whereas like with Curse of the Moon, one of the reasons I really like it so much is it takes the gameplay of Castlevania 3 that I really like, but then evolves the level design to meet modern standards, kind of like Shovel Knight did.
Yeah.
Which is why we like that game so much.
Yeah.
And that's why I think you should go play this game.
Yeah.
If you like Castlevania 3 or any of the original Castlevania games, play this game. Like full stop.
I'm definitely gonna play this game because you know I love those games.
Yeah.
I just went on about how much I like side scrollers. By the way, it is Hitman the definitive edition, and it is out. It was out like a week and a half ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, I knew it was around.
If you didn't get a chance to play Hitman before, play this version now. It's got all the content in it, and Hitman was
It was Giant Bomb's game of the year in 2016.
yeah, like it's a highly underrated game. So yeah,
Other game I played this week, Drew. I literally played this for 5 hours last night straight.
yeah.
Detroit Become Human.
Oh, that's right. That's a game that's
The
out.
David Cage game. David Cage is back. He had a dream,
Yeah.
you know.
Is this as weird as Heavy Rain? Are there any weird accents in this one?
Actually, it's less weird this time around.
Oh.
As far as the accents go. The story is still a David Cage game. So it's basically like a crime drama with robots
Right.
this time around. Drew, of course, likes robots.
I do enjoy robots.
But then it also tries to deal with racism, and there's the section with Kara sort of dealing with child abuse. It really hits some tough content matter and subjects, and I think it deals with some of them in good ways and some of them in, well, David Cage ways. So I'm not far enough yet to really form an opinion. But unlike Brock, who, if you want to hear like a more like fleshed out opinion about Detroit Become Human, he posted his review on Thursday, so check that out, brockstargaming.com. I'm really liking what I played so far. I think narratively and writing wise, I think it's probably the strongest of the 3 games so far.
That's positive.
It hasn't fallen apart yet, though. I mean, there's no, we got to get that origami killer this time around as far as accents go. I think actually all definitely the 3 main voice actors do really well, but even like Lance Henriksen actually plays a cool character in this.
Well, Lance Henriksen is dope. The guy has the most he's a very unique sounding voice. For those of you who don't know who Lance Henriksen is, he's the guy who played Bishop in Aliens. He's in a bunch of Jim Cameron movies, and he's just a badass.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's not in more movies.
His section with Marcus is already meme worthy. There's plenty of memes going around of him, and Marcus is one of the androids.
Right.
Marcus is basically his caretaker, because like Lance Henriksen basically is like like an old he's like in his 80s, and he rides around in his wheelchair. He's like a rich artist essentially, and you basically have to take care of them. But it's some of the stuff's really funny. So cool. I'll talk about it more next week when I actually finish it, because like I said, I just got the game yesterday, and I really like it so far, but I don't know if it falls apart at the end, and that's what I'm worried about. Like pulling a Heavy Rain with Drew's favorite twist in the whole world. Spoilers for Heavy Rain. Scott Shelby being the origami killer is the thing that Drew hates the most.
I really hated that.
Out of anything that exists.
That really sucked.
Or just, for right now, there's no Navajo section from Beyond Two Souls either.
Oh, boy.
Which is a 2-hour, I'm going to ride around a horse and do nothing for 2 hours kind of scenario. So, all right, so let's knock out the news before we get to our spoilers section.
Yeah.
There's only a couple news stories this week, surprisingly, because like everything leaked last week or got announced last week, I guess. So We do know some of the details about Far Cry 5's DLC. So the first expansion pack, Far Cry 5 Hours of Darkness. Yes, hours is pluralized because there's multiple hours. Is coming on June 5th. So that's pretty soon. That's like 2 weeks from now. Ubisoft also announced the timeline for the season pass because we didn't know when any of the content was coming out.
Yeah.
So Lost on Mars, which is like the Martian ant one, comes out in July. Dead Living Zombies comes out in August, and Far Cry 3 Classic Edition arrives next week for season pass holders. You can't actually buy the game until July, but if you have the season pass, you can play it now if you want to. So next up, Drew's favorite thing to talk about the whole world, the PGA Tour.
Yeah, the PGA Tour. God, I love golf so much.
We got the golf intrigue. I mean, you know what? There's probably one person on this show that's like, "Where's Rory McIlroy's golf 2019? Where's it at?
Where is it at?"
Because it's been a couple of years since EA made a PGA game. Because they lost the Tiger Woods. They didn't really lose it. They got rid of Tiger Woods.
They abandoned the Tiger Woods rights.
But then they did Rory McIlroy, and then they haven't done a game since then.
Yeah.
And that was at the beginning of the generation. So HB Studios, which is located in Canada, which is awesome, has announced that this year's version of the Golf Club, because they've actually done 2 golf games now. They do a yearly batch, but they didn't have the golf license. This year, they have the PGA license, so for the Golf Club 2019. While in an interview with Golf Channel, Len Brown, who's the PGA Tour Chief Legal Officer, stated that the PGA and EA ended their long-term relationship successfully, like amicably.
Okay.
However, an EA representative told IGN that they still have an ongoing relationship with the PGA and they haven't lost the license. So who the fuck knows what's going on here? I just thought it was actually a really interesting story because, like, both sides are saying something completely different.
Well, especially if the lawyer is saying one thing.
Yeah. Well, he represents the PGA, like, from a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
But then, like, EA's like, no, we got something coming, I guess. Maybe. Who the fuck knows?
It sounds like they're in the midst of contract negotiations and they're dick swinging a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they did this on purpose. So then people go, "What do you mean there's no golf game?" And then the PGA can turn around and go back to EA and be like, "See, there's hot desire for a golf video game. Why aren't you making this? Double down on your contract, EA." I don't know.
So yeah, the only reason we're talking about this is I actually thought the story was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that I actually like golf games. I don't like golf in real life. I like golf video games, but man,
I like Mario Golf.
Everybody's Golf, fun game.
Everybody's Golf, Golf Story.
Yeah,
These golf games I would play.
yeah. The golf club. I don't know about that. We'll see. And last news story, which isn't really so much a confirmed news story, but I wanted to talk about this because it leaked last night, and I'm excited about this. So the Singapore PSN store added Mega Man 11 to the store. Now it hasn't been listed anywhere.
Yeah.
For pre-purchase, but it was put up last night with an October 3rd release date. Now, this is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
But if you do the time conversion from Singapore, that would basically put it to end up at the same time in North America on the Tuesday, October 2nd.
Yeah.
The listing has gone down at this time, and the listing actually in the description mentions something called a new double gear system, which allows you to increase speed and power, but we literally know nothing about it. I just thought it was really interesting. Especially because it's weird timing for that game. I almost thought that game would come out either in November or September.
Yeah.
Instead of like the week before Call of Duty and 2 weeks before Battlefield and 3 weeks before Red Dead. Like, it seems like a weird time for Mega Man 11 to come out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right time, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Well, no, like, we don't know anything that's coming out in November, so that's why I was thinking, like, Capcom would probably push it towards then or something. Or even a December game or something. Or, like, if it was even coming out this year, because no one even heard anything about it.
It's all weird.
Yeah. But either way, I'm really excited for Mega Man 11. I can't wait for that game. All right, so let's talk about new releases real quick, and then we'll move on. So Sega Genesis Classics Collection out this week on all the consoles. 52 games in this collection. A lot of weird ones, including Dynamite Headdy and Biohazard Battle and Alien Soldier and Crackdown. But
Crackdown.
It's got the old school Crackdown.
The original Crackdown.
The one with really terrible box art. If you haven't seen the box art for Crackdown, go look it up.
It's bad.
Next up, Ikaruga comes to Switch
this
week. If you want a really hard shoot 'em up, Ikaruga is your game.
Yeah, that game's tough.
Yeah. But it actually, what's cool about it is on the Switch version specifically, since it is made to be played vertically.
Yo, does it do the thing?
You can actually configure it where if you actually flip your Switch vertically, it will play natively in vertical.
Oh, that's a great. Oh, that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah. Next up, Street Fighter's 30th anniversary collection out this week. It has like 20 Street Fighter games. 20 versions of Street Fighter 2.
Why are there so many versions of Street Fighter 2?
Why not?
Who knows? Now you can own them all.
Exactly. FarCry Classic Edition, which we talked about before.
Yeah.
And then Metal Slug XX, just to get Drew excited.
Yeah,
out this week.
Metal Slug Double X. I do like Metal Slug. They're just, again, another weird kind of fun side-scrolling game. Great, like, arcade shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you like side-scrolling games like you pointed out.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of just, like the art is really cool in those games, and just, like, there's a lot of just weirdness in those games, right?
It has a really timeless art style to it, too.
Yeah, like, you fight, like, Nazis, kind of like fake Nazis.
You rescue dudes with no clothes.
Yeah, and, like, there's a whole thing about, like, but there's, like, lots of future technology, and then there's, like, aliens get involved. It's really weird, really cool. Yeah.
So what you're saying is it's as realistic. It's the side-scrolling version of Battlefield 5.
Yes.
Excellent.
Fact.
With steampunk.
Yeah. And this one's just got aliens in it.
Yeah. All right, so Drew, we're going to get into our last topic. But it's time to say goodbye to people who don't want to hear any Far Cry 5 spoilers. So, first of all, let's do plugs now, and then let's move on. So Drew, plugs go.
I'm at David McMill on Twitter, and go to game-moose.com and check out the website. That's it for plugs.
Cool. Brock is on Twitter at Brock McLaughlin, or McLaughlin, as he likes to say it as well. Check out his website, brockstargaming.com. We also need to plug friend of the show, Christine. Started a new podcast.
Yeah, Gaming the Six.
Yep. Basically, the return of the Got Game podcast.
Yeah.
From the old Sportsnet days.
Yeah.
So go check that out. Gaming the Six on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. Gaming in the Six on Twitter.
Yeah, and I think the website's just gamingthe6.com, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Just go to the Twitter. All the links are there for that.
Yeah.
Last but not least, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD. You will find, barring like me falling off a cliff or something, my Bloodstained Curse of the Moon review this week, because I'm really excited to talk about that. So, in fact, probably by the time you're listening to this, it'll be done, because I'm writing it probably today after we're done recording the show. All right. So, Drew, do you want to get into this last topic?
Yeah. It's time to, after the music, be prepared for Far Cry 5 spoilers. If you haven't played to the end of Far Cry 5, you might not want to listen to this.
This is your final warning, so get out while you can.
All right, Ryan, so we're back, and we're talking about Far Cry 5, the story of Far Cry 5.
Yep. And if you stuck around this long, get ready for some spoiler talk.
Yeah. So the game, in the game, you play as nobody. You play as the rookie, who isn't really a character.
The Rook.
The Rook. Yeah, you don't really have an identity beyond that.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're supposed to, like, personify that character.
Yeah. But you don't really make a lot of decisions.
No, you really don't.
You're kind of along for the ride a little bit. The decisions you get to make are like in the world, like what members of the family you take on. So the game opens with you, the sheriff, the marshal.
Yep.
I don't know why the marshal is there. Because
he's the marshal. He knows the area. He knows the lay of the land.
That's why the sheriff would be there.
Shh. It's fine.
So marshals are federal, and marshals deal with things like
I know. I'm just winding you up because it's fun.
Yeah, marshals deal with people who are like fugitives and stuff like that.
Right.
There are no fugitives at this stage.
But the real question is though, who's is the Rook the rookie marshal or rookie to the sheriff?
It's rookie to the sheriff.
Yeah.
Because they do establish that, and then there's another. The lady, she works with the sheriff's office too, I think.
Right, she does.
Yeah. Anyway, so you show up, you land at
the cult compound.
The cult compound, the main cult compound, and you arrest the father, Joseph Seed.
Right.
And that's where you get that's where you get the first ending of the game.
Yeah, because you can just choose not to arrest him.
Yeah.
You just walk away and leave.
He sticks out his arms and he says, just leave. Like if if you wait long enough, then you just get in a helicopter and go.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
In fact, it's funny when you think about it, because we're going to, obviously, if you're stick around, you know what's going to happen. It's funny because when you think about it, that's the best ending to the game.
Yeah, in theory, I guess.
In theory, because it's the one that causes the least, in a lot of ways, the least loss of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of, sort of, but not really. You don't really know what happens after that.
Yeah. If you want to be nihilistic, look, here's the deal. Here's the ending. Everyone dies. Essentially, everybody dies.
Pretty much, no matter how you do it, pretty much but your character always lives, but everyone else dies.
Yeah.
But think about it this way: in the first ending,
Yeah.
your character doesn't die, and none of the other characters you went with die. You get arrested.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Like, no one else dies except for if the cult then eventually takes over and then kills other people, I guess.
Yeah.
But like no one within your group dies.
Anyway, so that's the one ending. Otherwise, it does seem a little strange to me that like you're allowed to land at the compound and arrest him.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like there's all kinds of there's dudes with flamethrowers and the guys with guns just standing around watching. And you're like, oh, things are bad. But at no point does anyone ever intervene.
No. Nor do they
try to
ever
stop you.
shoot. Why don't they just shoot down the helicopter or whatever? Because that's like the whole threat of like why you can't take the helicopters you pick up in the environment and then just leave.
Yeah. The suggestion is they're going to shoot them down.
Yeah.
Before you do.
So why don't they just do that here instead of letting you land?
So
because they do that after you take off.
Yeah. So
I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah. So you arrest Joseph. You get in the helicopter, and the whole time he's saying, "God won't let you take me."
It's true.
And you get in the helicopter, and then the helicopter gets shot down. It crashes, and all of the law enforcement officers have survived the crash, but the cult are the ones who get there first. They liberate Joseph. They take all of your buddies, and you manage to escape.
Right.
And that's where the game sort of kicks off from there.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you run into cult forces at all, they shoot first and ask questions never.
Right.
Right?
So they see a heavily armed dude just walking around there, like, or lady.
Well,
Dude or lady walking around. They're going to shoot you.
Well, you're not heavily armed at the very beginning of the game, though. You just have your
it's fine.
You just have your bow and arrow.
I'm
right?
trying to make Major Leagues in logic here, Drew. And you're
I know,
not letting me.
my suggestion is that there are problems with the game's plot structure.
What?
Right?
This is shocking.
The whole reason why we're having this conversation. So for whatever reason, they didn't shoot you at the beginning, but now they're willing to shoot you whenever. So now, basically, you get thrown into the world. You get introduced to Dutch. Yep. He is sort of like
he's your boy.
He kind of introduces you to the game world. He rescues you and takes you to his bunker.
Yeah. He has his own island.
His underground bunker, and he's got a little island. And that's sort of like the starting sort of like tutorial area.
Yeah.
And Dutch teaches you how to liberate...
basically like all the different game mechanics.
Liberate outposts and do a bunch of other simple things. But Dutch basically says that he's been fighting against the cult, the Peggies, and he encourages you to go out there and take the fight to the Peggies and help the people of Hope County restore sort of autonomy and get out from under the thumb of the cult. And from there, you have the choice to go to John's area to the south. In the ranch land, the farmland. Yeah. You can go to the Henbane with Faith, which is out to the south as well. To the south, because it's kind of like they're kind of like three.
Well, it's like the east quadrant.
Southeast, and then up in the north is Jacob's area, which is the
Whitetail.
The Whitetail Mountains, which is where our friends at Ubisoft Toronto that was their specific region.
Right.
So you can choose. You can tackle those in any order. I personally went with John, Faith, and then John, Jacob, then Faith.
Right.
You did in what order?
I did Faith, then John, then Jacob.
Right. And you can only then take on Joseph at the very end.
Yeah, once you finished all.
Once you finished all of them, you're locked out from doing anything there.
Right.
So let's start with I don't know, who do you want to talk about first? In terms of like story, because they're all discrete stories, and they don't affect one another.
No, and that's the weird thing about it is that none of them really. There's no fallout. Like after like the first area, I expected there to be fallout.
Yeah,
and there never.
It's
was.
not like if you defeat John first, there's no mention of you defeating John anywhere else.
Right.
And the same goes for any of the other ones.
Because in theory, you can do all the missions before the final ones, and then just tackle them the final 3 missions in whatever order you want after that.
Right.
If you want to do it that way.
So you could equally
distribute everything.
Yeah. So you could be fighting you could get because basically you can't do the last boss fight until you get your
Yeah,
resistance meter up, right?
You got to get that resistance meter up.
So in theory, you could do
find
that.
Stuff to do.
Yeah, in theory, you could do that in all three of them simultaneously by
Well,
bouncing around.
let's start with John's area, I guess.
Yeah.
With his amazing church and
Yeah.
his TV show that you only see once and never again.
Yes, yeah. So John is like a TV preacher. He's supposed to be really charismatic. He keeps talking about the power of yes. That's also where you want to rescue one of your buddies whose name or her name I can't remember.
Yeah.
But she's being tortured by John. So John's whole thing is like he tortures people.
Right.
Like he just out and out tortures people.
Yeah, she's like the female sheriff. Like
Yeah, the female sheriff.
Female cop,
yeah,
whatever.
and so like you'll occasionally see these like cutscenes as you do escalation, and John just basically just gets mad at you.
Yeah.
You liberate the
He
town.
just likes torturing people. That's his thing.
Yeah, like there's nothing that seems anywhere special about John other than just he's supposed to be again charismatic and good looking and.
But that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I found that out of all three of them, I found that his separation between that, like the way he's supposed to be perceived and the way you see him in the game is so different from each other. Whereas the other two characters sort of fall in line with how you would kind of perceive them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
whereas John's just like, he's supposed to be charismatic, but you're never. If you just read that in the instruction manual and that's all you had to go off, you would never see that in the game ever.
No. There's no. The game doesn't go out of your way to like show how he's charismatic or how he's won people over.
Yeah.
Because
Other than the TV show snippet at the beginning, that's it.
But even at that, that's not really.
He's just a shitty dude who likes to torture people.
Yeah.
And blow shit up.
And so you sort of respond in kind. There's a couple of fun characters there. The pilot guy is kind of interesting. You rescue a pilot there, and he's got an airfield, and his wife is pregnant. That's kind of a fun dynamic.
Yeah.
But like one of the things I hated there is the preacher is there. He's in the town.
Right.
It's sort of like the biggest sort of like sort of like suburban area in the game.
Yep.
And there's a church there, and he's there, and his whole thing is like he's like, oh, we need to fight back against the cult.
Right.
And that's where I thought they were like, oh, they're going to do something really interesting and talk about sort of just like the nature of faith and belief, and what's the difference, or like like this is my belief, and I'm gonna like defend it with like violence and rigor. That's sort of the position of the cult. I thought like he was going to be like a pacifist or something like that. No, he keeps a gun in his Bible.
He's literally the preacher from Call of Juarez.
Yeah.
But then he's also Cheech Marin's character from Machete.
Yeah.
They're basically the same thing.
He's just like a super violent preacher. He's like he's literally like a Southern Baptist preacher who has a gun.
I was very surprised he didn't have the line, "God has mercy, I don't."
Yeah. So he's pretty one dimensional.
Yeah.
The bar owner lady she's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Mary.
Mary.
Yeah, she's from the FarCry book that I talked about on last week's show. That's sort of her story. And how
She seems more developed. Like she's like genuinely seems to have concern about the town.
she's there for
like
her
that.
brother.
Yeah.
And that's why she's trying to get him back from John.
So essentially, you liberate outposts until you fight John.
Mm-hmm.
You go into his underground bunker, and again, it's the weird thing is like you get captured and he keeps letting you go.
Yeah.
And there's no good explanation as to why that happens.
Other than like John telling them it's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Just let him go. Which then we'll get it when we talk about the ending. I will have it's all going to tie back together.
Right. So Ryan has a theory.
I have a theory, but we'll talk about that when we get to the ending.
So he keeps letting you go, or you manage to escape from the bunker or whatever. And then eventually you come back to the bunker, and you get kidnapped, and then you blow up the bunker, you destroy it,
Right.
Or as they call them, gates in the game, right? Because it's some reference to Revelations or something. So
it's the different gates to Eden's Gate.
Right. So you escape. And you get into a plane, and John is in a plane, and then you have a dogfight, and then he dies.
You know what the best part about that dogfight, Drew?
What?
You know how I beat John in the dogfight?
Oh.
I crashed my plane into his. We both died, and then when I respawned, he was on the ground dead.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, so his plane crashed, and
It was a very epic finale.
His plane crashes, and you like walk up to him and like you shoot him or something. Yeah. And so then John dies, and you get a little cutscene from Joseph, and he just goes like,
I'm sad.
Like one of my family has died.
And to be fair, we're not going to say this every time, but he does this at the end of everyone.
He does at the end of everyone, and like he just gets escalatingly more mad. Just like, well, after 2 dies, he doesn't say who dies. Well, no, he does, but he's like separates it.
Yeah, there's a different one for every.
Yeah, it was like 2 of my like, and then he'll say who dies.
Yeah.
The next area, let's talk about the henbane.
Right.
I hate the henbane.
Why? You don't like zombies?
No, I don't.
But zombies are cool.
The conceit for why they're a zombie in this game is really dumb. That they're all like drug addicts, and the whole explanation is that like they've taken so many drugs that their brain is
zombified, essentially.
Their brain is fried. They're brain dead. They're never coming back. So it's okay to shoot them, which is really dumb.
Or likewise, they'll murder you because they have taken so many drugs, I guess, question mark.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows?
And now they're just super violent. They harvest drugs. They're capable of high level functioning at some point, but also they're just monsters and will try to eat you and shoot them. So
because they're obedient to Faith still somehow, and they never explain how that works.
Yeah. Faith so Faith manufactures Bliss, which is a drug that's omnipresent. It's in all the areas.
Right.
But there's more of it in her area.
There's much more of it, and it's also in the water supply.
And so if you go swimming, you'll get the weird drug effect.
Yeah.
If you go through fields of Bliss, which you can tell like they look like big farmers' fields of like this white flour, you'll get high.
Yeah.
And then there's like these blue-green crates that will explode. Also, Bliss in its refined state is explosive.
Yeah.
So
I mean, would you rather that or explosive barrels, Drew?
There are also red explosive barrels in this too. There's multiple explosive barrels.
Just keep shaking my head at you.
Yeah. So the whole story there is that there's like a prison, and you help liberate the prison, and then that's like the main hub of the area.
Because the sheriff is like helping you liberate the prison.
So the sheriff is there, and the sheriff and the marshal are in that area, and the whole thing is the marshal is under the thrall of Faith because he's just like he's had like the drugs.
Yeah.
Versus the sheriff who's been free and he's just been orchestrating stuff from the prison.
Yeah.
Or resistance. And Faith is an interesting character because she's working against you, but every once in a while she implies that she doesn't want to do this.
Yeah.
That she doesn't.
No, she feels like it almost feels like she's forced into doing it.
Yes. Again, she implies. She never out and out says.
Exactly.
Like, I think at one point she saes, "Oh, he'll kill me." I think you hear that like in the background or something like that, right?
And again, we talked about this before, but she's not the first Faith.
No.
Like, there are many collectibles that lead you to believe that out of all, like, the other 2 brothers have been there forever, but she's like, there have been like 8 or 9 different Faiths.
Yeah.
Because they just keep getting killed off.
Yeah. And Joseph just keeps replacing them.
Yeah.
So her whole thing, she runs the area, but like she's being coerced into it. But again, you don't get much of that. It's not like she's like, because you have opportunities where she sits you down, and like, so the whole thing is whenever you get captured by Faith, it's you're having a drug hallucination, right? And she's like saying like, oh, like, don't you want to be free, and don't you want to be people happy, and like, I don't know, like
are they happy being zombies?
They have like this, like, she seems to have this philosophical bent, but they never really go anywhere or do much with it. And as you progress, you eventually just start hallucinating. Hallucinating, I'm gonna air quotes that.
Right. Because the more you're exposed to the drug, you're sort of hallucinating more and more. That's the implication.
That's the implication, but how it works, the mechanic works, is just basically as you escalate more and more in Faith's region, and only in Faith's region, will you experience these weird things where like people will turn into animals, or animals will turn into people with a green puff of smoke. Or like
small animals will turn into bigger animals. Like
or bigger animals will turn into smaller animals. Just weird shit happens all the time. So like you might see like a beaver, or not a beaver, I guess I should say. You might see like a rabbit, and you shoot a rabbit and it turns into a cougar.
Yeah.
Right? And it goes poof with a green puff of smoke, and then it'll come running after you. Yeah. It's and that's supposed to be like you're tripping on the drugs or something. Who knows? But
don't do good drugs, kids.
If you're in that state and then you go to another region, like it doesn't change anything. No, like that doesn't happen.
It only happens in that area.
In that area.
Yeah.
So eventually, what happens is she attacks the prison. You push her too far.
Yep.
She attacks the prison. The marshal gets killed because the marshal turns on everybody. Like, you rescue the marshal. The marshal turns on everybody because the whole thing is he's been brainwashed by Faith.
He's had too much of the drugs.
Yeah, and so he gets up and he just shoots everybody and then shoots himself.
Right.
But the the sheriff survives,
Right.
and you kill Faith. Yeah, and that's it. There's no choice there. There's no.
This game is not about choices.
No. I mean, it is in terms of, again, how you engage in.
No, but I mean, like, story choices.
Do you use a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle? It's not about do you spare Faith or do you kill Faith? There's none of that.
Nope.
So that's the Henbane.
Right.
I hated it.
And though
I hated that story.
it was
really
so good.
lame.
It was the best one.
And then Jacobs, which I mean, I think I like the most and the least simultaneously. Jacobs is the
You
area
didn't
to
like the
north.
arcade areas, did you?
I didn't. I thought they were dumb. We'll get to
We'll
that.
get to that, yeah.
The Whitetail Mountains, which is in the north.
Right.
That's where Jacob is. So Jacob is a little bit different. So whereas John is a preacher who's like trying to coerce people, and Faith is
She was like a drug addict.
she's
when
a
she got
drug addict who was like
rescued.
who was tricked into this.
Yeah.
Right. Jacob is a former soldier, and he doesn't really buy into the mission so much as that he has his own philosophy that dovetails into Joseph's.
He likes the idea that he has power and he basically has like his own private like army.
Yes.
That's what he likes.
So his overarching philosophy is you have to cull the weak. You have to kill off the weak people so that the strong ones will survive.
The fact that you said that line just now just echoes in my brain. How many times I had to hear that stupid line?
Cull the herd. He
Call
says.
the herd.
So and it comes from the notion of like hunters. What they would do is to maintain a herd of like antelope or deer or something, they would intentionally kill the weaker ones, and that way only the stronger ones would reproduce, and they wouldn't. A herd only moves as fast as its slowest member, and so on.
Right.
So by culling the herd, you make the herd stronger. So that's his justification. He believes that we should take that bent with humanity. We should kill off the weak people, and then the strong will survive.
Which is all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah, which dovetails again into Joseph's belief that the end is coming. So it's like we have to be prepared for the end, so we have to be our strongest selves to be ready for that.
Right.
And this is the way he goes about it. So Jacobs is the one where it makes the most sense that he captures and then releases you on purpose. Though at no point do we ever
because he's not trying to kill you. He has another.
He has
mission.
an agenda. When that is that because he brainwashes people. He uses like military brainwashing techniques. He essentially like tortures you and then like somehow tricks you into doing stuff. So the whole thing is you'll get captured by dudes you'll take an arrow to the knee,
which is the most ridiculous of all three.
Yeah,
because you'll get shot, but like you'll take an arrow to the knee while you're flying a plane in like 30,000 feet in the air, and somehow that like they capture you.
Yeah,
it's like what the fuck?
It's a little buggy how they do that.
Yeah,
it's almost like this game has some game breaking bugs in it.
It doesn't have any of those.
It has. Well, no, it does. It has. I've had experiences a few where I had to like restart the game because like certain things didn't trigger properly and stuff. But we'll talk about that.
I haven't had that thing, but go on.
So yeah, the first time you get captured, they shoot you in the leg with an arrow, and there's a particular music track that plays, which is only you.
Yeah. Only you.
That's the one. While you run around and play short little arcade mode things, where like you're in like this lodge and it's all red and you can
and you just hear call the herd.
You hear call the herd over and over again, and you shoot guys and they disappear into puffs of smoke.
That was my least favorite sequence in the entire game.
I
Having
agree.
to do that like 5 times, like it was the same every time, other than it slightly got longer.
Yeah, it got longer, and the justification was that like it's supposed to be the sequence is supposed to be representative of you being brainwashed,
right?
But it didn't communicate that very well.
No,
it just sort of seemed like, okay, now something really weird is happening. Like, am I tripping on drugs or what's happening?
Yeah,
like they don't talk. There's nothing like. It's not like you see Jacob sit you down in a chair and then talk to you and say this is what's going to happen, or Or like he doesn't put a gun in your hand and say like this guy's gonna kill you if you don't kill him.
They do eventually, like the rebel base kind of acknowledges that after.
Yeah.
They don't really say what's happening to you right away, and you're like confused.
Yeah.
Like, why did I just take a random arrow to the knee while flying a helicopter and now I'm playing arcade mode?
Now I'm playing arcade mode, yeah. So then he releases you into the wild again, and you continue to fight against him as the resistance meter builds up. Then you hear the music. Mm-hmm. And then you pass out, and then you wake up, and then you do arcade mode again.
Right.
And then eventually you keep doing that until arcade mode ends and it reveals that you are in fact you have not been kidnapped, but you're actually in the bunker, and you shoot the leader of the resistance in that area. which was really dumb. Really, really, really dumb.
But
I mean, I get what they were trying to do, and that's interesting. That would have been cool, but like the execution was super lame because you knew. I don't know.
I mean, you saw it a mile away.
Yeah, you knew exactly what they were building to.
But it was still like it felt like it really goes along with Jacob's character, because Jacob's character doesn't really care about the overarching plot. He just wants to sort of take down the resistance leader in his own way, essentially, and this is his way of doing that. Which again, that's why, like, even though I saw it a mile away, I'm like, okay, this makes sense with the type of character Jacob is, and like his plan. What
it doesn't make sense with as a character is me.
Right.
My first reaction was, okay, the bad guy has put a gun in my hand and told me to shoot people. I'm not going to do it.
But you're brainwashed.
What the game does is it
you heard only you, Drew.
Well, what the game does is it just kills you.
Right.
It makes you start again.
Yeah, I know, it's really dumb how they do it.
It's just like, okay. I mean, I wish they had done something.
I just think it's not. Yeah, you're right about that. It's not really great game design. Like, I wish there was another way it would sort of force you to do it.
Yeah.
Without actually just killing you.
Yeah.
You just choose not to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you're running out of time,
make it like less obvious. Make it as though like.
Because like if you're actually a brainwash person and you don't do what the brainwashing tells you, you don't just die.
Yeah.
That's not how reality works.
No. I mean, like what I thought would have been way more interesting, for example, is you are instead you wake up in a prison cell and you're with another guy, and like the other guy like helps you escape, and then you fight your way out of wherever you are and you escape, right? And the whole time it's playing the music and as you're fighting your way out.
Right.
But then it keeps doing that over and over again, and then you're like, wait, I already did this. Like it makes it seem as though you have the agency. Right? Whereas like it's putting you in a situation where you as the player want to leave and you're fighting against the character.
It makes you think that you're doing the right thing when you're not.
And then in the end make it though like you're fighting through like, oh wait, no, you haven't been fighting to escape.
Oh, you see Jacob, let's shoot him. Oh wait, no, it's the resistance leader. Oh, what have I done?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that was what I was expecting them to do.
But no.
And do it in like a way where you weren't expecting it to happen. But they didn't do that. Nope. Instead, they made it really obvious what was happening. They just made arcade mode. Yeah, and it was dumb, and I hated it. Right. And then like Jacob, the boss fight with Jacob is really lame.
Yeah.
He like basically stands on a hill and you just fight your way up to him, and then you shoot him.
Yeah, and he's trying to snipe, and you sneak around everyone.
Yeah.
Just kill him.
Yeah, because there's like a laser, and you can just avoid it.
Yeah.
And you can't bring your buddies, you can't bring your helpers into.
No, but you can bring both your sniper rifles like I did.
Yeah.
and a rocket launcher and just shoot the hill.
Yeah.
Because that was when I was like near the end of the game, so it's like I had so much ammunition and crazy like upgraded guns that that fight was just nothing.
Yeah, but you can't like if you spent a bunch of money on vehicles, you would have been fucked there, right?
No, exactly.
Because you can't use.
Because it really just depends on how you upgrade things.
So you kill Jacob, and again, there is a moment somewhere in there where Joseph will come on and he'll tell you a story. Right. Where Joseph Seed, the father, will come in and he'll tell you the story about how he became the father, which is that like his family was like there was a terrible car accident. His wife died, and his daughter was going to be like have severe disabilities for the rest of his life.
Right.
And he's telling you this as you've been captured, and he tells you that he made the choice to kill his daughter because he knew that was the right thing to do, or something.
Right. Which sort of echoes to what we heard back at the panel at the preview event in March.
Yes, well, I mean they repeated that was like.
Yeah, that was like his motivation for being the father, essentially.
Okay, I mean it's flimsy motivation at best.
Like it triggered something in his brain to make him think.
I was like a moment of trauma, but like there was no like again he doesn't have a philosophy, and he doesn't explain how he knows the end is coming. Right. There's no talk about that. It's just we're meant to take that for
granted. We're
gonna
get to that when
we are going to get to that. So so at this point you hear very little from Joseph. Like he's not really developed much as a character.
No, like you really only, other than the story there, you only see like bits and pieces of him, but like you really only see him at the beginning and the end.
Which is a problem.
Right.
So you go to Joseph's compound, and then again, this is where you get the last choice of the game. Right. There are 3 choices in the game.
First of all, he's totally drugged up all your friends.
Yes.
And they're zombified, but not really.
Well, he has drugged up some of your friends.
Oh.
He has drugged up all of your
guns for hire.
Your guns for hire. Not your fangs for hire. He didn't drug up
Nope.
a cheeseburger.
But he also did like
I feel like is a bit
marry the bartender and then some of the other side characters as well.
Yes, and he's got all of the people that you've rescued from your original from the helicopter. And
Right.
they're all at gunpoint. There's no explanation as to how this happens or why this happens.
Nope. You just show up and
You
all of a
just show
sudden
up
they're there.
and that's what's happened. But before you get to that point, or rather at that point, you get a choice, which is just for you and your law enforcement buddies to get in your car and drive away.
Yep.
Or for you to confront him.
Right.
And again, that's where you get
Both the endings. The,
the-
the quote unquote the bad ending or the quote unquote the badder ending.
yes. That's where you get the next two ending options. So if you choose to surrender, you get in the car. Or rather, if you choose not to fight Joseph, you get in a car with all of your law enforcement buddies, and you drive down the road, and that's pretty much it, except for one thing. They're just talking about like the only you comes in, and then like your vision goes all weird, and then that's
the end.
Yeah.
Because it's implied you just murder everyone in that car.
Yeah.
And you leave.
I guess Joseph now does that because Jacob's dead.
Well, no, but it's just the radio station, the cult radio station was just on.
Was just
It was
randomly playing
Well,
it?
because it was one of the cult cars, and
Yeah.
it just happened to randomly play.
Was it by design or was it by accident?
My theory is it was by accident.
Okay, all right, that's even lamer then.
Yeah.
So then
But that's just my theory.
Yeah.
There's no evidence.
There's no-
It leads it up to speculation.
yes.
Because likewise, you don't know what happens after
Yeah.
that point. Maybe the sheriff actually blows your brains out and like defends himself. For example, you don't know that.
We don't know. So the point is, we have no idea.
Yeah. But I kind of liked how like it ended and it was in a dark place and it was like it left it up to your interpretation as to what happened.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about that ending, and I almost liked it more than the ending that we're about to get to,
Yes.
which actually left less to the imagination. But we'll get to my theory in a second.
Yeah. So then you have a boss fight with Joseph.
Yes. Where he summons tornadoes.
If you well, I don't know if he summons tornadoes, but if you make the decision to instead fight Joseph to resist,
yeah.
then what happens is there's a fight, and essentially what you have to do is you have to shoot your guns for hire until they're downed, and then you can go pick them up, and then they're on your side.
Right. Because somehow that removes the
drug,
the
but that's
bliss.
that's the gameplay hook
Yeah.
or whatever. Now you could, and what can happen is if your guys get downed by Joseph and he picks them up, they're on his side.
Right.
So you have this sort of like ebb and flow. It's just you're trying to get everybody back on your side, and then it goes to the next stage, and it keeps going like that.
Right.
And he keeps adding more and more.
I don't think I ever saw that. I don't think I ever saw Joseph pick someone up.
Yeah,
I didn't know he could do that.
He will do that, and then they'll be back on his side.
Okay.
It's kind of like a game of like tag almost, right? So while that's happening, there's all kinds of like weird tornadoes. There's like a windstorm happening,
Which is out of nowhere.
which again
weird.
otherwise doesn't happen if you do the other ending,
Right.
right?
Like none of that happens.
No. So the suggestion is somehow that maybe Joseph has magical weather powers,
Or you might just be imagining it due to bliss or something else. Who the fuck knows?
yeah, because he does dump over 2 big barrels
He
of
does.
bliss.
That's why, like, that was
Yeah.
when I played it. That was my line of thinking. Was like, okay, that's the wind stuff that you're seeing is like
you're high on drugs.
Yeah, you're bliss induced essentially.
Yeah, you're
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah. So after all this happens, you're standing there and you arrest him, and as you do, a mushroom cloud appears over the horizon,
Right.
Off in the distance,
Because a nuclear weapon has exploded.
and then multiple ones start going off, and then everyone goes, "Oh fuck!" He was I think someone shouts like, "Oh, he was right! It's
Yep.
the end!" And that there's some kind of nuclear apocalypse. You all jump into a jeep, including Joseph.
Yep, and drive away.
And you drive, trying to get away from the explosions and get to Dutch's bunker, where
Right.
you know you'll be safe.
Yeah.
And in that process, the car crashes.
Yep.
Everybody but you and Joseph die.
Yep.
And Joseph now you're stuck in the bunker with Joseph, and that's the end.
Forever.
Forever. Yes.
So, my theory,
Yes.
and this is actually put together with other collectibles throughout the game as
Yeah.
well, is that the nuclear apocalypse that they've been quote unquote predicting is in fact they didn't predict it. They caused it to happen, essentially. So there's actually mentioned in a couple of the collectibles of a nuclear weapon supply had been stolen essentially. So it sounds like, based on what you sort of find throughout the collectibles, if you read the collectibles, when you put two and two together, it sounds like basically, and this is why it doesn't happen in any of the other endings. Joseph and the cult stole nuclear weapons, and their idea was they were going to start World War III.
Right.
So basically, by having the bombs explode, they would then cause the U.S. to shoot nuclear weapons, and then vice versa.
Right.
And basically, that's why they had been training the cult members and everyone else to basically to survive.
Yeah.
And the reason why they don't kill you right away is because they want you, the rookie, to make the choice whether or not to basically start the end.
Yeah.
Or not. And that's basically the whole, when you see the ending, it kind of puts all the other actions of the cult members in place, I guess, for me, because they're instructed not to kill you because they want an outsider to make the choice whether or not to start the apocalypse or not. Essentially, they want the narrative to be for the survivors, hey, the outsiders tried to take us, so now it basically has the survivors buy into the idea of the religion that Joseph's trying to preach.
That would be really interesting if it were true.
Right.
And if it were actually a part of the narrative that's in front of you.
Again, this is just what I cobbled together from the narrative they told me.
Yeah.
But it's it's never expressly stated, but if you read the collectibles, it seems like that's what it points to.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of this, a lot of people say that, if you read the collectibles, if you listen to the radio...
But you shouldn't have to do that with a game like this. I see your point, for sure.
Yeah, this is the problem is... That's way more interesting. Mm-hmm. That would be interesting if there was they had this philosophical bent, and that's why things went the way it did.
Yeah.
But they don't communicate that to you effectively.
No, they don't, and that's why I totally understand why some of the people didn't realize that that's what happened.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I know when we talked about it before between you, me, and Brock, none of us ever you guys didn't come to that conclusion because the game doesn't really tell you that unless you really know where to look for it.
Yeah.
And really are hunting for that story. Because again, similar to playing the games like The Last of Us, you get a lot of the story about the world through its collectibles. And that's why when I play games now that have narrative, when I see narrative elements in collectibles, I always pay attention to that. After The Last of Us really sort of triggered me into doing that. And that's what I did with this game. And I felt like that told me the story much better than the game did. Which, again, is to the game's detriment. Because I feel like if it was much more clear about the story, you're right, it would be really cool. That's a really cool idea if you'd be able to see it in action rather than just reading about it, which is really weird.
There are two things that we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like they've mixed some things up in a shitty way. There is narrative and there's world building, right? Those are two different things, right? The narrative is, there's a young rabbit who wants to see the world, so he leaves his home, but finds out that the world isn't as magical a place as he thought. Encounters a bunch of adventures. He gets robbed and he gets lost, and he eventually gets to the point where he reaches a stage where he loses all hope and he thinks that he'll never get to be happy or see the magical world as it was, or whatever thing. Let's say he's trying to get to I don't know, Australia.
Right.
He's trying to get to Australia because so he hits that low point where he thinks he'll never make it there, and he's about to die, but then he realizes that his ability to hop is the thing that makes he's going to get out of this jam. He jumps up, he pulls himself together, and eventually he perseveres, and he gets on a boat and he gets to Australia. And
that's quite a story, Drew.
That is a narrative, right? That is a classic narrative arc.
It's not even up for interpretation. You told me exactly what happened.
That is the traditional hero's journey, right? That is a narrative. The narrative is person has a desire, person has abilities, person faces perseverance, person overcomes perseverance, person achieves their goals. Right? That's the narrative, right? So fundamentally, this game doesn't have a narrative.
No.
You don't have goals, right?
Nope.
That's one of the biggest problems, right?
In theory, you don't even need to
Yeah.
kill any of the people. You can just go fuck off and do whatever.
Yeah.
if you want to.
There is, I mean, the adversity that you face is not terribly interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like there's all kinds of problems with this game.
Because again, this time around, it's weird because when you compare it to other FarCry games, they're trying to tell the narrative differently this time around. Because they're trying to tell you the narrative through the world building.
Yeah.
And less so by cutscenes and acting and basically trying to tell you a narrative. Because in Far Cry Primal, one of the things I liked about it is that it had collectibles, but it had a very linear narrative that was told to you throughout the story.
Versus...
which is completely different from what they did here.
Whereas, so narrative is that, world building is the depth. World building tells you, when he got robbed by this, when the rabbit got all the stuff stolen by this badger, this is why the badger did this, and this is why badgers do this in general, and why there's a crime problem in this particular part of this city.
Crime problem with badgers.
Right. You get the idea, though. Like that's...
Yeah.
World building gives you depth. You don't need the world building to enjoy the narrative. The narrative should be a simple structure that gets you excited, interested, makes you empathize with the character, and then that you feel like you go along on this journey with them, and that you grow with the character and the character grows. Again, your character doesn't grow. There are no changes. All the stuff underneath sounds like it's actually probably more interesting than the narrative itself, and that's a problem. If your world building is better than your narrative, then you have a bad story, right? You can't have one and the other without the other, right?
Yeah.
So, one of my biggest problems with the game is that there's all this stuff, the radio setting up that there's tension between China and the United States, and that they're headed towards what people think is going to be a war,
which is why like them setting off the nuclear weapon sort of triggers that.
Right. The war part, that stuff, I didn't hear until after I finished the game.
Right.
I didn't start noticing that stuff on the radio until after I finished the game.
Yeah, which is really like a weird way of telling you about that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and you also see a little bit of that in the collectibles as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just like coincidence. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or I wasn't listening to the radio as much. One of the things I know that I was doing was turning off the radio a lot when I was in the car.
I was only really listening to the radio for the first couple hours, so like I picked up on some of that stuff, but like
I don't know why. So some of the characters like don't ever communicate that stuff to you. Like something like, oh, like John's taking over a town. First we were worried about war with China, and now this John guy, like nobody in person ever brings it up. It's never in the cutscenes or the in-face part of the narrative. Like I shouldn't have to go digging for it.
Yeah.
So I mean that's probably one of my biggest problems with this.
Because I think the story that they're like, if they were able to take all of the stuff they do with the world building and put it into the narrative itself, and then tell it to you, I think it'd actually be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
But they don't do that.
Stuff like there are multiple faiths. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because again, you wouldn't have known that unless you found the one collectible that referenced that.
Yeah, like if you go to like face the faith, and then the sheriff is like, "Don't kill her. Like she's not doing this because she wants to. Like, do you know this is the fifth one? Like, Joseph keeps doing this over and over and over again. He just like keeps taking advantage of these. He finds a person and manipulates them into doing this.
Because when I read that, it made me feel so much more sympathetic towards that character. Yeah. But you wouldn't have known that. Like when you played it, you didn't know that ahead of time until after I told you. Yeah. Like when we talked about it. Like
So there, that's why there are all these problems with the game. Yeah. I don't get me wrong, I still love the game. I still played a ton of it.
Yeah. Well, the gameplay that's there is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just the story, unfortunately, just falls apart as far as the storytelling aspect of it.
The narrative execution are problematic.
Right.
So. I hope that they learn from this, and that whatever they do next, they pull it together. But this
because they tried a lot of different things with this Far Cry, and I think the next Far Cry game that they do, like the mainline Far Cry, I think will do a much better job next time around, because this time around, again, they not only changed the storytelling style, but also how you explore the world was very different this time around too. Mm-hmm. They tried to do some things very differently, and I hope they don't do what they did again, where they make the story like in one area and not impact the other.
Yeah.
Like I'm really hoping like the next game they figure out a way to make that work.
Yeah, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like this worked. Like parts of this worked.
Yeah.
The narrative didn't, But like the open world stuff and being able to tackle areas in whatever order you wanted to, that stuff seemed to work to some degree.
Yeah.
They just needed to.
Like,
do
I
a
like
little
the
bit
idea
more.
of bouncing between areas and doing all kinds of cool stuff. Like that to me was really appealing.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
There you go, our giant-sized Far Cry 5 spoiler cast. Hit us up on Twitter, game_moose_cast. What do you think about Far Cry 5? Let us know. Anyways, for Drew McMillan and Brock McLaughlin, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 125 of the Game Moose Podcast, and we're out.